ሰላም ተመልካቾቻችን እንደምን ሰንብታችኋል እንግዲህ በዛሬ ፕሮግራማችን የጋበዝኩላችሁ ሁለት እንግዶች አሉ ኢትዮጵያን አሜሪካን ኤሪትሪያን አሜሪካን ለብዙ ጊዜኛ ዳያስፖራ ሆነን እዚህ ሀገር ስንኖር ብዙ ኢትዮጵያኖችም ኤርትራዎችም ብዙ የማንደፍረው የሥራ ሙያ ላይ የተሰማሩ ናቸው የፖሊስ ኦፊሰሮች ናቸው ዴፒዩቲና ፖሊስ ኦፊሰር ሚኒሶታ በሚባለው የአሜሪካን ሀገር ስቴት ውስጥ ነው ሁለቱም የሚሰሩት ለተለያዩ should I say cities agencies እና cities ነው የሚሰሩት እና ደስ ብሎኛል ለሁለቱም ጋር ይሄንን ቆይታ ለማድረግ በመቻሌ ምክንያቱም ለየት ያለ ስራ እንዴት ነው ኢትዮጵያኖች ወይ ኤርትራኖች ምን ላይ ተሰማሩ የሚለውን ለየት ያለ መልኩን ማሳየት እንችላለንና እንግዲህ እኔ እንደ ዋሽንግተን ዲሲ አይነት ከተማ ውስጥ የምንኖረው ብዙ አበሾች አሉ ይባላል እዚህ አካባቢ ፖሊሶች ህብረተሰባቸውን መምሰል ሲችሉ ህብረተሰባቸውን ለማገልገል በጣም ጠቃሚ ነገር የሆነ ነውና ሆፕፉሊ እንግዲህ ይሄንን ፕሮግራም የሚመለከቱ እዚህ ሀገር የሚኖሩ ኢትዮጵያም ሀገራችን ውስጥ የሚኖሩ ወጣቶች ይሄንን ትልቅ ስራ ለመስራት ይነሳሳሉ ያነቃቃቸዋል ብዬ በማመን ነው ሁለቱንም የጋበዝኳችሁ በጣም ደስ ይለኛል ዌልካም እንግዲህ ተመልካቾቻችን እንዳልኳችሁ ይሄንን ለየት ያለ ስራ የሚሰሩት እንግዶቻችንን ኦፊሰር ሄላ ማወረንና ዴፒዩቲ ቴድሮስ ሰመረ በጣም በልጅነታቸው ነው እዚህ ሀገር የመጡት እና በደንብ በኮምፎርታብል ሆነው ራሳቸውን ታሪካቸውን ስራቸውን ኤክስፕረስ እንዲያደርጉልን የዛሬን ቆይታ የምናደርገው በእንግሊዝኛ ይሆናል ማለት ነው እንድትከታተሉን ጋብዛችኋለሁ welcome Hela and Samara we're thrilled to have you here in Washington DC all the way from Minnesota
Thank you.
As I mentioned the work that you do primarily in the diaspora community here in the US I don't even remember ever meeting an Ethiopian or Eritrean police officer. It's always the Americans, or I've seen like Latino police officers, depending on what part of the country or what city, depending on the population. But we rarely ever see Ethiopian American or Eritrean American police officers. So I'm thrilled that you're here. I think it's a fantastic job or an opportunity or a role to have in life to be able to take care of people, serve your community, especially a community that looks like you because you have that cultural background. So I'm hoping people will be inspired within our community young boys and girls will be inspired to choose the line of work that you chose. And I'm hoping throughout the conversation they'll learn why. So let us get to know you. I'm going to start with you, Hela. What inspired you to become a police officer? Have you always thought that this is something that you wanted to do? Is it the movies? Is it, your neighbor? Is it somebody? Like what kind of put that little fire in you to say, hey, one day I'm going to be a police officer?
It's my life journey that got me to this position. When I was younger, I faced some challenges that made me very curious about how the law works and I help people in crisis, and that's what we're here for as a police officer.
Yeah. Tedros, how about you? What was it that kind of ignited this desire to be in this industry?
I think for me, it's mainly the upbringings. I grew up in church, right? My parents used to take me there, my grandparents, and so the need to serve people. It's something that was instilled in me, at a very young age. So I wanted to do that, and then after I came to the U.S., like you said, we didn't have enough representation within the force. So I can be on the side and just, see what happens, or I could, be a part of it, be a part of the change. So
what did your parents say when you told them that you're going to become a police officer?
Same reaction they gave me when I told them I was joining the army, because I was in the military before that as well.
Before that.
Yeah, so it was tough because we're always expected to be a doctor or engineer or this. That's not my passion. I thought about it, but that's not where my heart was. So I followed my heart. I think my parents eventually understood that's what I was born to do, I guess,
It's your calling.
So that's my calling.
Yeah.
And so I followed my heart and I did that.
So what did your family say?
So my grandma raised me until I was 12. And she was supportive in anything I wanted to do.
That's so nice.
So when I told her I'm going to go to law enforcement, she's like, Yeni ambassa. That's what she said. On the other hand, when I was working at the county, my aunts, they were not thrilled about, because there is a danger to it as well. So they were mainly focused about that.
So the reservation is what the job brings, the uncertainty, the danger, the unknown is probably the same thing, outside of you not becoming a doctor.
Yeah.
That's kind of probably what concerns your family.
I guess not really knowing what law enforcement or military is in the United States, right? I think people have maybe a different perception of it, but you can make a career off of it. You can make a living off of it, right? So I think people really understand that aspect to start with, and then like you said, the uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
So being safe or being in danger. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So for our viewers in Ethiopia and Eritrea, and just even in general for us, I would love to understand the recruiting process, the training to become a police officer, and it also, what the requirements are. Can you both share?
Okay. I can start. So you need, for the state of Minnesota, you need a 2-year, minimum of 2-year in law enforcement or criminal justice, and then afterwards there is the skills program for about a year.
Skills program is?
Where you learn case laws and firearm, force on force, and then the physical aspect as well, like physical training. And after that, you can go get your post license. Do you want me to explain the post
license is what? Like it's...
You have to be certified through the state.
And the certification process is like you have to read, you have to take an exam and
it's
stuff.
It's an exam, I think 300 and some questions. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's
a lot of questions with case laws or scenarios and stuff.
Okay.
After you pass that, then you can start applying for an agency. Right now, we're looking to hire a lot of people because we don't have that many police officers, but back in the day, there would be 400 to 500 people applying for one agency.
And it would be a wait list of people to get in?
Yeah.
Not anymore?
That's not the case today.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that why in a little bit. So can you add about the training, like physical training? What are those requirements, the training aspect of it?
Just so we're clear, the training that we're talking about is in Minnesota, because the requirements are different.
For each state?
For each state is different, right?
Okay.
So, like last time I researched it, last time I looked into it, there's only 2 states, including Minnesota, that require you to have a college degree. But if you're one of the other 48 states, you do not need a college degree. So everyone has to do their own researches. But as far as the training goes, we do a lot of how to talk to people, just how to have a conversation. People call us sometimes because they're distressed, right? And it doesn't mean that they're hostile. So we get trained so we are able to differentiate, right? So we can talk to them. This is something that I want people really to know, so they can feel comfortable to call, right? And then the medical things is another thing that we get trained because we do everything. As a law enforcement, you're almost expected to do, the jack of all trade.
Yeah.
So we help with, fixing tires or with medical things, right? So
Hela would not be doing that, but I'm sure you've helped people.
We attempt, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, people expect that of us.
I think,
right?
Yeah. We wear different hats.
Absolutely. And it depends on, people, especially here in the U.S., police officers, we even not just keep us safe, we're also, become like mental health, because you get called for all kinds of crises, not just, I'm in danger physically, but, some people could have some mental episode, like all kinds of things happen that we call the police officers. And, part of the conversation about, how do we reform policing is just that, right? It's not all just, come and save me because somebody's trying to harm me, but you respond to a lot of different calls and you end up helping people in many kinds of situations. So how do you balance your identity as an immigrant and a police officer? Do you find this to be challenging between these 2 identities, or do you just, it's easy for you to navigate, in both spaces because you bring your own personal experience to policing? You're not just, hey, I'm just a trained police officer. you are also an Ethiopian, you have a culture, you grew up a certain way, and so all of those things become part of you. So how do you navigate that?
I wouldn't say it's challenging because after I take my uniform off, I'm still an immigrant, I'm still an Ethiopian. But I do bring different perspectives and empathy with the people that I deal with. I would say that.
I'm going to have to agree with her 100%.
You see it as an asset, not as a challenge to have
exactly
to have that background.
Yeah, because I mean it's the same thing that you and I are going, right? You know, whether you work in law enforcement or a different firm, we are who we are. You know, I'm an Eritrean. You know, I'm a human being before anything else. But I do have some understandings, you know, some culture that kind of keeps me grounded and that guides me and then allows me to do my job. So it's a benefit. I don't think it's a challenge.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Have you ever encountered stereotype or biases within the department or your colleagues because you come from an immigrant background and the area that you live in, depending on where you live in the U.S., there may be a very well diverse area, or it may be just predominantly white folks or predominantly black folks. So have you experienced any, I guess, like, could be from your superiors or from the community, any challenges, the fact that you're an immigrant or the background that you have in the force?
We all know there's unconscious biases that goes on. So it would be a lie to say we've never faced that. It happens in the community, in the workforce. I am part of a committee within my department to train and educate people about diversity, inclusion, and equity. That's the route I would go. And with answering your question on that one, yeah.
How about you, Tedros? Have you experienced, maybe it could be, I would call it a stereotype and a bias, could be from your colleagues or from, could be superiors, and how do you overcome that challenge?
I think there is, if you don't know something, you're going to question it, right? You're going to have an opinion, you're going to have perspective. I think it's a human nature, right? So whether it's in law enforcement or any other field, we all are facing that. And so my job is, knowing that, I like to give people a chance to get to know me, right? Just like how I want to be heard, so I can tell them my values and beliefs, and I like to people, I like to listen. I like to talk to them and get to know them, and hopefully we can all get into a better understanding. But yeah, so the challenges are there.
They are there. Have you ever encountered in a situation where some people say something about an immigrant community, or how do you educate them? Like, let's say if you're with a beat cop that walks around with you, and you happen to be and predominantly, like in Minnesota, there's like Somalian community, like a huge Somalian community, a huge Ethiopian community actually also, right? So if you encounter something that you feel like, they're really not understanding the community, do they call on you to say, hey, these are your people, can you come and handle this? Or does that ever happen? No,
like for language barriers, they usually call me to do that. But some things they might not understand. How our community, they work 2 to 3 jobs, and they might not. There was an incident where this guy, his money was stolen from him. What is that called? Via internet? What is that?
Fraud.
Fraud, yeah. But he seems to have a lot of money, and they were questioning that. But I understand, like, he works 2 jobs to support his family back home, and he's saving up, or it could be considered like money laundering or anything like that. So I simply just explained that's not the case. This guy's a hard worker, obviously, working from this time to this time, saving up money and sending money. So, and because he didn't have the language to express what was really going on, people automatically assume, this is why we said it's so important that the police looks like your community, because you could, like you said, this is a prime example of how to handle that, because they would have thought that he stole the money, right? Or like he did something laundered the money, or he was trying to do something fraudulent, right? Yeah. So. All right. Well, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back, and we'll continue our conversation.
All right, we're back. We're continuing our conversation with Officer Mauer, Hela Mauer, and Deputy Tedros Semere. So the media just play a key role in the conversation about policing in this country, right? So how does the portrayal of the media in the minority community, as well as with police officers, impact the perception that we have about police or policing in general? Who want to take that first? Hela?
I can start. I don't watch the media because nothing
at all.
No, not the news, because nothing good comes out of it anyways. But that is my opinion.
Okay.
How they perceive the community, the minority community at poverty level, they're focused on that, and the crime levels. So as far as policing, we do get calls in those communities. So our focus would be, our attention as law enforcement would be in those areas, because that's where we get the majority of the calls. So we call them hot spots. So
okay. So the perception that we have, it's media, like I said, plays a big role within the community and the policing. So what do you think about that?
So it's like the broken window theory, right? There's issues in that neighborhood, in a minority community or poor community, right? They're struggling to feed themselves, right? They're struggling with a lot of different things. And so there will be some issues, right? And the media plays that as if it's like a hostile environment to be, I think, to some extent. It affects certain officers because everyone wants to be safe, right? How you approach that and how you treat, that community versus the other, it does affect you. So the media plays a big role in how they portray the communities, the minorities, the immigrants, whoever it is, right? So the media does affect that. 100%.
And the perception of itself, it just affects the way you police also, because there's the directives that come from higher up or people that have a different take on that, on that neighborhood. So that also plays into that as well, right?
There is really no policies on how you treat this versus that or directives. But this is, if you watching the media, this is what you hear, and it does affect some people to a certain extent.
Just being a minority police officer in general, are there unique challenges to being a minority in the force versus the average, white American, who grew up in the system, who's been supported in the system? Are there unique challenges, or all police officers have the same challenge?
I don't think it's a challenge, right? I think it's more so beneficial, because you, as a minority and as a person from Eritrea, right, I've seen different things. I grew up different, so I had to come here and I had to assimilate. I had to learn another culture. I had to learn another language, right? So I know there's a possibility of that, right? So I think it's a benefit. I don't think it's a challenge. If that makes any sense.
Statistically, it is proven that there is challenges to grow in their career and what it takes. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Well, I agree with. To grow within, yes, definitely. But I guess maybe I didn't explain it, correctly. It's the experience and the skills that you bring as a minority is beneficial for you, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So what are the ranks? I want to understand the process. So you become, when you first come in, you become a beat cop. Is that what it's called? Like you start?
An officer, patrol officer.
Patrol officer. And then so what happens if you want to grow? I'm sure there are many directions. You become a detective, you can be an investigator. So tell us the different ranks or the different directions that people could go once they become a police officer, Helen.
Okay. For our department, there is a police officer, then a sergeant. After sergeant is lieutenant, captain, and the chief.
So the chief is the highest.
That is correct.
Okay.
So ours would be sheriff.
Sheriff and
for the.
So what's the difference? Why is she an officer and you're a deputy? Why is that?
So, I work for the county.
Okay.
I'm a deputy sheriff for a county.
Okay.
So, Within the county, there are 42 cities that we can work at any of those places.
Okay.
Yep.
So you work for the county, and then you work for the state of Minnesota. So for the whole state. So that's why they call you an officer?
So I'm Metro Transit Police. So it's under the Met Council.
Okay.
And then that is the state under the governor. So
there are different divisions.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in order to grow, let's say, some people just, you want to be a police officer and I'm okay, I can retire as a police officer. And then other people may want to be a detective or like I said, and they grow within the ranks that you mentioned. So what does it take? Is it experience, years of experience, or do you have to get a master's degree or higher education? How do you grow if that's the interest that you have within the force?
Training, degrees, everything there. And then for like detectives, you need so many years of experience. It's not so much a ranking. Anybody can be a detective. You just apply for it. If you're chosen, you'll get it. For the sergeant's process, there's a test and an interview process. I don't know as far as the captain's and the chief's process. I'm not there yet.
Because they're pretty high up.
Pretty high, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In your case, what would it be? Like you're a deputy sheriff, so what would it be?
The rank structure is the same, all the way up to captain. But we do have a major between captain and the sheriff. And there's a deputy chief, and there's extra ranks in between.
Okay.
But as far as getting promoted for a sergeant, there's years of experience requirement. For us, you have to have 4 years of experience.
Okay.
And then for those 4 years, you have to prove that you're, able to do the job. You're able to lead people. You're knowledgeable of what you do. But as far as the other things, right, like becoming a detective, K9 handler or bomb squad, whatever you want to be.
K9 is the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
that sniffs all of the drugs. Everything I know about cops is like the TV shows, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
and we have them all, at the sheriff's office, and you can get to that if you've proven that you could do the job.
Okay.
So there's no schooling requirement. There's no years of service requirement. You just have to prove that you're eligible to do the job, and then you have to apply for it and interview for it when it opens up, when a position opens up.
Yeah. For you, Hela, as a female, it might be, would you say it's tougher being a police officer as a female, or, because you're a mama too, and we're going to talk about that later. Is it challenging for you to be a female police officer? Because physically you're not huge. I looked at you, I'm like, oh my gosh, how is she gonna arrest people? Like, how do you command that respect? That the outfit has its own, like that. It comes from you wearing all these badges, and then all the radio and all of that already has, a respect that it commands. But when you're physically smaller, tell me, is that challenging for you? How do you overcome that?
I have to be very assertive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So they know when I mean business.
Okay.
And it makes things easier that way. But there is challenges for female officers.
Yeah?
Of course. They look
is
at
that
you.
The physicality
the
of
physical,
it?
Yeah, correct. They look at you and say, oh, sometimes they ignore you until you use your command presence and say, hey, we're not playing games now. That happens.
This is serious.
Yes.
Let me tell you, I had this experience one time in my house. I was, upstairs in my bedroom. I look out the window. All of a sudden, this car, chased by another car. We're a small neighborhood in the back of the road. Anyways, the car drove so fast, I can't even tell you how fast. He hit a car that was standing and then ended up getting on top of an SUV. That's how fast they were driving. And then I can hear a gunshot. I know, so dramatic. Maybe I shouldn't be telling the story. But anyways, so next thing I know, 5 people came out of that car. They run in an alley, and then the driver is like, it's very dramatic. Unfortunately, the young man died. He was like a 19-year-old. But I called 911, and the police were there in minutes. Okay? And the police officer walks out of the car. I said, they went that way. Let me tell you, the way he ran after them with zero regard for his life, because you don't know, the people that he's chasing could have guns, could have whatever. But it just gave me a different level of respect for being a police officer. He didn't even say, let me call it backup or whatever. Clearly the backup was coming, but the way he ran after them with everything he has, I'm like, oh, gosh, this is so dangerous. They could, they could have shot him, they could have killed him or whatever. So how do you, as a police officer, with the danger that comes into the job, how do you mentally challenge yourself, or how do you mentally handle yourself, understanding the pressures of a dangerous, job like you have?
I think there are the danger, 100%. Every day is different. It can change in a minute, right? I personally, I focus on the service that I'm providing, right? So knowing that whatever my family is right now, there's an officer or a deputy over there that's kind of keeping that area safe, right? So it's a sense of, I'm proud of doing that, right? So I'm doing that for somebody, and hopefully somebody else doing that for my family.
That's how you see it.
Yeah, so keeping safe, So, yeah, and you just don't think about, yourself at that moment. You're just protecting. You go in a protective mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you handle, you're a mom, like I said, how do you handle the danger aspect of it?
I guess I don't think of that. So when I leave the house, I know I will come back to the house, but I don't live in fear.
You have that faith. You don't feel you live in fear.
I don't live in fear, because at any given point, any of us could be gone, right?
That's
You don't have to be a police officer. So I take it as it comes, right?
Okay.
You have to be mentally prepared for everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a break and we'll continue our conversation. We'll be back. We're back. We're continuing our conversation with Officer Hela and Deputy Tedros. So I know I talked about that story, which was probably a little too dramatic for this, but we have to address about safety. Like, how is there a procedure within your department that you have to follow? Is there a policy in place? How to protect yourself? How to keep yourself safe? What kind of training do you go to? Because we want to make sure that our officers are safe, right? And so what are some of the procedures and policies that you have in place that would protect you? Should I start with you, Tedros?
Yeah, I can start. So just to add on to what I touched on earlier, there's procedures on something as simple as traffic stop, right? We get taught over and over and over again how to safely do it. We choose where we're going to pull somebody over. We don't just choose them. So these are kind of the basic trainings that they do, but there's procedures. And we also wear gears, right? So right now, I don't know if you can tell. I can
tell, yeah.
I do have a body armor in. Protects me, from things, firearms and whatnot. Radio is another very important aspect that we have that protects us. And dispatch always knows where we are and what we're dealing with. And so there's policies and trainings that are focused on protecting us and doing our job safely for us and the community.
What would you like to add to that, Hela?
And then the backup aspect as well. Let's say there's a weapons call. You just don't go in by yourself. You wait for your backup, or make sure like another agency is available if you're the only one in that area. And the backup is quick, so we work as a team. So even if I'm a transit police officer, if he's out on the traffic and he needs help, if I hear it on the radio, I would respond.
We can see each other's incident or whatever call they're on
your car?
On our car.
Okay.
So other officers. So they're constantly updating what's going on, right? This feels suspicious and I'm going to need somebody else.
Okay.
And then within seconds, there will be many agencies over there, right? But we can also see if that person said, well, my interaction with this individual is good, I don't need any backups, and we can see that too. So we're always watching, listening, to help others if they need us.
This is just a random question. Like I got pulled over a while ago, and the police officer asked me to open the back window of my car. And I'm like, why is he asking me to open? Like, I'm just sitting here by myself. Is it for safety for himself? This is what you're talking about. Like, okay.
Yeah. Is it your window tinted?
Maybe. Yeah, you're right.
And he can't see through it?
So he has to ask to do that, right?
Because someone could be in the back with the handgun.
Very good.
Did you open the window?
I follow directions.
And it worked well, right?
Yeah, like I actually let me go. So that was a good thing.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So the biggest, I guess what I've always really wanted to ask police officers, especially when I hear stories on the news about, like someone from our community, got shot by someone, or, like it could have been a police, it could have been whatever. Sometimes we really do not understand how to engage with officers from a routine traffic stop to when they are called at your house for domestic violence, or it could be a robbery. So I want you to, as elaborately as you can, to explain to us how should our interaction be with officers when you get a routine traffic stop. You want to lie yourself out of the situation. You want to tell this big tale to the officer, and they can tell like when somebody's not being truthful or honest. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we think like we can be slick and smart and talk our way out of it, and might try to say something and it becomes something more than it shouldn't have been, right? So tell us what you see that we should know about as immigrants and how we interact with police officers.
Okay. I would say first thing for anyone, even our community, know your rights. There's time for challenging situations, and at the call, it should not be. You can always take the officer's card and take it to his supervisor, the judge, anyone, and challenge it then. I
can challenge the police officer when he's talking to me to say, hey, I need to know, give me your card.
You can
go to your box.
No. That's not what I mean. Be cooperative. And then after you're done with the call or whatever the incident may be, if you don't agree with the citation that he gives you for traffic stop, don't argue with him there, right? We don't want to create more issues. It's just, hey, this is what I was doing. You can prove yourself at court. Staying cooperative is huge as well, because we get all emotional and one thing will lead to another. I'm talking about the community now when they're dealing with police officers, not the officers itself. Do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I mean, kind of touch up what you were saying with the window, right? You put the officer at ease, and then the whole incident from that, I think, will be easier. But if, for instance, right, hypothetical, if you were to say, no, I'm not going to open this window, it would, put the officer in defensive mode, right? And then it would create more issues. But we live in America. You have rights. Right, and whatever citation you get, you have about 30 days if you want to challenge it. You can go to court. You can tell them, hey, I'm challenging this, and they'll give you a court date. You can fight it. So yeah, do not argue. Just comply with the officers.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yep.
Complying is huge.
Complying is huge because sometimes, officer stops you because there's suspicion of something going on, right? And they just want to verify that the suspicion is false. If it's true, then they'll deal with it, right? And also, officers stop you to, if there's some violation in the car, right? They're not always there to write you a ticket. They could just stop you to remind you. So it's not,
it's not always danger.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I do a lot of traffic stops, and I hardly write people a ticket. And a lot of it goes with how people communicate with me. Right. If
you're nice, it's better.
It makes it easier. It makes it easier because we try and educate people is what we try and do, and keep people safe, right? So if you allow us to do it, then most likely you'll get out of it.
On a serious note, let's say if there's a domestic violence, or there is, it could be, husband and wife, or it could be partners, it could be siblings, family members, or whatever. Usually immigrants are scared to even call the cops, and they suffer in silence because they don't understand what police will do. They would either the women or even whoever's being attacked doesn't feel like they're going to be protected. Can you tell us from your perspective, from an officer perspective, what we should do and how we should look at police officers when we're in time of crisis? Maybe Teddy, you can start. Tedros, you can start.
As soon as you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was this incident. Without really getting into deep information or detail into it, I did a traffic stop. Someone was driving very, erratically at a high rate of speed, not safe for him or the people on the road. So of course I made the traffic stop. And I mean, it was just extremely sad, seeing his hand on the steering wheel like this, just pulling it out, just shaking, And so went out there, talked to him, and there's no need for that. I'm just coming here to have a conversation with you, tell you to drive safe, right? So police officers are not there to hurt you all the time, right? That's just to keep you safe. So knowing that, I think people should, be relaxed.
Oh, he was just scared because you were in
because the police stopped him, right?
Yeah.
So that created fear on him, But I just wanted to make sure he's safe. He gets home because he just got off work going home, right? I want him to get home safe. You can't drive like this. You're putting yourself and everybody else in danger, right?
Yeah.
So just explain the rules to him and yeah.
And so how would you handle, like, if somebody, what would you want to tell people that are watching, scared to call police officers because they don't feel like they'll be protected or something bad will happen, or so they stay in a situation that's just hurtful to them forever? So what would you say to those people?
We have resources. Even as a police officers, we can connect them to domestic abuse advocates that will guide them how to safely exit from the home, or if they have to go their separate ways. There's resources there. It's all about providing information, and we're there to do that, and we will help separate them if they do call us for domestic. It's you shall arrest. So if somebody is getting abused, one person is going to go. So.
And that's not the end of it. I mean, we do classes. The Hennepin County Sheriff Office, we do host classes for immigrants.
Okay.
Right? Immigrant females. Doesn't have to be from Eritrea, Ethiopia, anywhere. They would come out there. We educate them on their rights. Right?
So what is it like? Usually, what misconceptions do you think we have that we don't understand? What about our rights do most of us don't understand? Like, what are some of the rights that we should know that we have as citizens?
Well, you should not take abuse, whether it's verbally or physically, right? I mean, that is your right. And you can always reach out or come to these classes, get resources, like she said, and how to fix that without even getting involved in arresting somebody before it gets to that. So yeah, definitely reach out, and we'll connect them with the right resources.
Yeah.
What rights
another thing too is, let's say, I'm just going to use the scenario where a husband brings his wife from back home and she doesn't have her citizenship yet, and she might feel compelled to just stay in the relationship because she doesn't have papers, she's not working. There's the financial aspect of it too. There is help out there. They don't have to deal with abuse. I'm glad you asked that question, and that is something that our community do suffer. There is instance where the husband gets arrested, and then they would call and say, well, I want to change my mind because I need him, or just things like that. Yeah. And for me, it's heartbreaking. You're willing to sacrifice your safety in order to have a family. Yeah.
But they should know that's part of it. I think the reason why I ask about rights is I've seen these videos, and I'm sure many of us have seen them either on Instagram or whatever, where a police officer comes in into your home, and then they have to have a search warrant, or they have to have some cause, like real cause, for them to walk in. Just because they showed up at your door, you don't let them in, right? Is that what it is?
You don't have to.
So, but I don't think we understand those kinds of laws. I think it's incumbent on us as immigrants to understand what these are so that we can protect ourselves and our families, right? So what are those kinds, similar type of, rights that we have that we may not understand?
So if someone comes into your home or the officer comes to your home because there is a disorderly or a domestic, you would have to let them see whoever you're fighting with, But let's say disorderly, something minor, he can stand outside of the door. He will ask for consent. Can I come in? You don't have to say yes.
Okay. Yeah. I can say you can talk to me outside. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'll step out. I'll talk to you outside. Yeah, definitely. And then as far as the domestic part, if the husband is hiding there and he's beating her up, or if she's giving him any kind of signal that he's in there, sometimes people talk with their eyes, or if he can see a visible abuse on her, he could go in and grab him.
Yeah, so we don't always have to wait for a warrant, right?
Yeah.
Warrant gets signed by a judge saying that there's this going on, we need to go in there and get so-and-so, right? Or search the house. But there's things called exigent circumstances, right? That require our, immediate reaction. Do something. If someone is getting assaulted over there, we're not going to wait until the judge gives us the warrant. We're going to go in there and break the fight. If you're chasing somebody, it's called hot pursuit. You're chasing somebody on the foot, and they run into the house, then you can kind of chase them in, right? Without getting really into detail. But outside that, you have to wait outside. You have to get permission from the person that lives at the house before you can go in. But if there's an active danger happening at that house, we have the right to go in there. Yes. Right?
Okay, interesting, yeah. All right, we'll take a break and we'll come back and continue our conversation. Stay with us. We're back. We're continuing our conversation. So the death of George Floyd, which is part of the state that you live in, actually, it happened at the knee of the Minneapolis police officer, didn't just set off protests within the U.S. And the time that we were in, it was COVID, everybody was at home. So it was almost like the perfect opportunity to really bring about some of the conversations that we needed to have about policing, excessive use of force, discriminatory stop and frisk. All of those things came to the surface because there's this huge mistrust within the minority community about policing or police officers. And this is, like I said, connected to the history of this country. And so all of it, this is not something that just happened, but this has been an ongoing challenge for years and years and years, especially in the African American community. So how do we, what are, I guess in your view, because we can't really talk about it in a larger scale, but in your view, how do we build trust within the community between police officers and the community? I'm sure you do a lot of community engagement efforts, but in your view, how do you build trust? So I can start with you, Hela.
You mentioned community engagement is huge. Just going out and building that rapport with the community, aside from just responding to calls. Just build relationship with people, right? That's one way. Another is transparency. Because now the community do ask when an incident happened, what is the footage, what happened? They want to know, and they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot better than before. They're putting things out. They know the policies are out. The community members can read them. Anyone can pull it up and read it. As far as footage too, it's right away nowadays when they request it, right from the judge and stuff.
So do you wear
body
cams at all times?
Yes.
Okay.
So any contact we have with the public that requires a call, it's recorded. Aside from community engagement or recruitment.
Anything you want to add to that? How to build trust?
Yeah, what I want people to know is we are held responsible for our actions, right? And so people, generally do the best they can, and And you can definitely, the videos, they're public data. Our office, our agency has a captain that's solely in charge of that. So you can go online, you don't even have to do anything. If it's involving you, you can request public data and get the information that you need. But to build the gap, to bridge the gap, you need community engagements, like she said, like Maura said, as well as having people that, officers or deputies that represent, that are from the community helps a lot too, right? I think it would put people at ease a little bit. Because I have seen that when I run into Habesha people, they see me, it's an easier conversation, right?
Yeah, of course.
So you need to have more of people that represent the area that you serve.
So how do you encourage, just to piggyback on that, like I said earlier, in places like Washington, D.C., if there is close to 500,000 of us living here and we don't see any representation at all, I think, maybe because a big part of it, because we don't really understand what it takes within the job. So how do you encourage folks to get into the force? What do you have to say to get them to think about it?
And there is a large community here.
Yeah.
Virginia, Maryland, and DC, and there's community centers, right? And there's events that go on. Invite the police, the agencies that are around there, invite them to events, and they can take that opportunity to do recruitment and explain what is, like, I went to an Ethiopian festival in Minnesota.
Okay.
And we did recruitment for CSO. It's
Oh,
community,
nice.
yeah. And it was very nice to see that there is passionate people that want to do this job as well in our community. They just don't know that, I'm too old, I have a family, but there's no age limit to becoming a police officer.
Yeah.
So I was able to provide them those information, and they were proud to see me there. So
yeah. How would you encourage people?
You can also do a ride-along, right? That's where you call ahead and set up a time and a date. You can just ride with another officer or a deputy, see what it is that they do, and ask questions, right? I think law enforcement is a very rewarding career. There's a lot of negative perceptions,
And it has great benefits too, right?
It has great benefits, yeah. So
tell us about the benefits so we know.
Well, the benefits. I mean, I love what I do, right? It's helping people. I think that's the main thing for me.
It's gratifying.
It is gratifying, and it's competitive with salary-wise.
Yeah, and the benefits within it's technically a government job, right?
It is.
So
pension,
you have your
retirement.
Health. There's a pension.
Yeah.
Did you know that nobody ever has pensions nowadays?
Exactly. So that's a great benefit.
You have police unions that protect you, right? Like protect your rights. I know there's controversial.
I'm part of the union.
You are part of the union.
So am I.
From my department. Oh, really?
Yeah, we both stewards.
Oh, great. So then they represent you. They protect you. So I like the pension aspect of it. Because people can make a really good living out of it, a career out of it.
Yeah.
I think give it a chance. What I would say, just go to all these different agencies. Do a ride along. And ask questions. Whatever concern that you have, I'm sure will be answered.
So as rewarding as this is, some of the drawbacks, and I want us to talk about it so you can tell us on how you deal with it, could be the emotional and the physical stress that comes with having your job, the dangerous environment, the long hours, and what we talked about earlier about the challenges of being a police officer in this day and age. How do you process and handle it, the negative aspect of it for yourself? So Hela, how do you deal with that?
Before I answer that, can I do a recruitment here?
Yeah.
Oh, she's about to recruit people. Okay.
I am part of the recruitment committee too.
Okay.
So our department is hiring, and they will pay for your schooling. They will give you $18,000 to cover the degree, and you need a year commitment. It's for CSOs, community service officers, until you're done and you're able to take the post test. And
so that's for a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree?
2-year, 4-year. So,
interesting.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And while you're going to school, I believe they start out at $26 as a community service officers. These are not licensed officers. They just work along police officers as well. And you get to go to school. You get paid an hourly as well. So it's a great opportunity if anyone is interested, especially the people in our community.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm gonna have to jump on that as well because I love what I do, and so I am an Explorer advisor. What we do is anyone between the age of 14 to 21 that have an idea eventually that wants to join, or they don't even have to join law enforcement, but they can join our Explorer program. We meet once a week on Tuesdays for 2 hours, from 6 to 8, and we talk about all the different laws, and we do a lot of trainings like team building, confidence, communication, just those soft skills that would even benefit you if you decide not to be a law enforcement, right? We'll show you what it takes to be a law enforcement. So this is for the young kids and keeps them busy, right? And keeps them active. We do physical training and we also do fun stuff. They want to shoot, we'll take them to the range, we'll do that, and we'll drive some squad cars. These are for the young ones. And for someone that is above 21 that's interested on working with the county, even if you don't have a degree at this moment, you can join as detention deputy. So you'll be working at the jail, you'll get the same benefits. I mean, the pay, I want to say, starting right now is $30-something an hour.
Okay.
And then while you're doing that, we'll pay for school. If you're going for law enforcement, you can get your 2-year degree, you can get your skills done, which is the 9 months training, and then you can become a licensed deputy like we are. And we are hiring, so apply.
Listen, here's an opportunity that you never thought about. Here's an experience that most of people in our community, it's because we don't know. Like the more you know, the more you want to be engaged. So this is why we were doing this show. So let me ask, you're a mom of 2 kids.
Yep.
How old are your children?
17 and 7. My little one just turned 7.
Oh my gosh, look, what an age gap, huh? 10 years in between.
10 years, yes.
So how do they see you in your job, in your role? How do they see you? How do they view it? What do they think about it? And how do you tell them about what you do?
My oldest is interested because she is taking classes, criminal justice classes.
Okay.
So she wants to be a therapy. But she's taking a criminal justice class right now. So I'm hoping I'm influencing her in that aspect.
And her dad also influenced? Your husband is also
He's a deputy, yeah.
He's a deputy.
And he works with him.
Okay.
Yep, he works with him.
2 police officer parents. How's that in the home?
It's good. It's good. The thing is, once we take our uniform off, we don't bring the job to the house. It's not always healthy if that's, you're bringing, like you were asking on your previous question, it does have a mental aspect. So we leave it at work, and when we're home, it's family.
It's family time.
Yes.
How do you explain the safety issue? How do you help them understand that?
Safety as far as
like the job, it's a dangerous job. It's not,
but
you don't say it that way?
I don't say it
Good for you, because you don't see it that way.
No, I don't see it that way. So I don't want to discourage them either. Right? No. People go into the Army knowing that they can be on the front line fighting.
That's very true.
So
that's how you see it.
That's how I see it, yeah.
And
we can't live in fear.
You can't live in fear, absolutely.
That's with anything. So.
That's true. What's next for you? And you're a single man. Moving up within, where you are. What's next for you? Where do you want to see yourself in your career journey within the force? I
want to see more of us in the office, in the force. We can better serve our community. So mine is I joined the Explorer program, so in hopes that I can start young and build that interest and see what happens. I guess eventually, I'm not really out there seeking for rank. I was a sergeant when I was in the Army.
Okay.
But I'm more so focused on, I guess, bridging the gap and bringing the community in.
How is, you were in the Army, and, in this force, are the experiences similar, or, why did you leave the Army?
I left because it's hard on a family. My parents, right? You're always gone. As a police officer, I'm 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away from my family. The Army, especially like myself, I was active duty, so I was stationed in Texas, and then you deploy from Texas to overseas and things like that. So you know, it was hard in the family.
Yeah.
Including myself. There's a lot of separation, so that's why I left. Other than that, I love the military.
You didn't like a military life?
I mean,
You would have stayed in the military?
I would have. You could, you know, I would have a lot of discipline, so...
Well, this has been a very enlightening conversation for me. I'm thrilled that you're here, and I'm hoping that it will inspire other people to consider this line of work. As we wrap up our program, is there anything that you want to share with your viewers? Any lasting thoughts? I want to give you the floor, Hela.
This is a very rewarding position to be in, and I would hope you would follow your passion and create your own reality.
Yeah.
And if policing or therapist is it, follow your dream.
Yeah. That's fantastic. What would you like to say?
I agree with her. This is a very rewarding job. I can't see myself doing anything, you know,
that's nice.
than deputy. So just follow your heart. Also, I just want to wish happiness and peace and to all Eritreans and Ethiopians abroad and at home. So and thank you for this opportunity.
You're the man of peace. I love it. Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming all the way here from Minnesota. I really appreciate you sharing your experience, your journey, and I wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Of course. And that wraps up our program. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.